Welcome back to another episode of Excuse My Grandma. It's Kim and my co-host,
Grandma Gail.
Today, we are joined by Alan Patricof and Lily Patricof. Alan Patricof is one of the pioneers of the venture capital and private equity industries, an early investor in companies. I think you've probably heard of these: Apple, Venmo, AOL, The Real. He's also an author of his memoir, No Red Lights, Reflections on Life.
There it is.
50 years in venture capital and never driving alone. And we're joined by his granddaughter, who happens to be my best friend, who I've known since we were 14. We went to high school together, Lily Patricof, who has made her own career in the world of New York politics. Thank you both for joining us.
Good. Thanks for promoting the book.
Of course. I'm excited to get into it.
I hope all your listeners will go out and buy it on Amazon or wherever.
So we start by asking all of our guests their age, relationship status.
I'm 26. I live in New York City in Tribeca.
I am 88 and a widower. My wife passed away 2 years ago, actually next week. And I am whatever you want to describe a widower.
All right. You're out there and you can drive. So that makes you very desirable.
Mr. Patricof, you're a cool grandpa. Like, you ran the marathon at 88, went to Burning Man. We've gone out together, all of us, to Stephen's Chalk House out in the Hamptons. And Lily never bats an eye. She's always like, my grandpa's coming. And she's so excited to all be together, which is so nice.
What's more important is I can cut the line at the Stephen Chalk House.
That was in the book.
And just to complete your picture, I was in Zihuatanejo, Mexico over the holiday, and I went paragliding. So
no way.
We're sitting here scared to go out in the ocean because the men of war were out. I mean, what's our story? This is not
We
good.
have no excuse.
We don't have any excuse.
How do you think, like, your varied interests and kind of being adventurous and doing those kind of things have connected you more with your grandchildren?
Well, I think that since I am such an active person and so actively involved in so many different areas, I guess they find I'm relevant. I mean, I still can keep up with them and probably keep ahead of them walking or not so much running these days. And I'm involved in politics. I'm involved in entertainment. I'm involved in art, theater. So, as long as you're an active participant, which I am and intend to be until I pass away at 114, which is my objective, as I say in the book, I intend to keep actively involved in whatever's happening.
Yeah. Grandma Gail, you say that all the time.
Well, I have a similar feeling. I mean, firstly, we started this podcast during COVID, the two of us, and it changed my life. I had a different type of life. All of a sudden, I became a personality, an influencer, whatever you want to call it, and they recognized me in every airport. But it changed. It made me young, and I can understand what Alan is saying. I think the more you're involved with whatever activity it is, your mind is constantly expanding. And I think Lily would attest to the fact that her grandfather can probably speak on every topic with her and with the family. And it must make an interesting family dynamic over a weekend when you're out in the Hamptons.
Yeah, what is dinner in the Patricof household?
I want to hear if you have any conversation over politics or if it's just all family conversation.
Lily and her sister and I have triple dated on one or two occasions.
I love that.
Well, I'm not doing that with you, Kim.
Well, we've done double date.
Oh, well.
Oh,
yeah. Well,
yeah.
Right, exactly. Lily, what do you think?
I think, we talk about everything. Family dinners definitely can get a little bit intense and chaotic, but we all enjoy that. Sometimes at breakfast, he kind of sits and reads the newspaper and just chimes in now and then, I think. And when he does, we all listen. But I think the fact that we all like to be around a table together and like to be in the same place says a lot. Like my whole life, being around what used to be my grandma and grandpa, now with my grandpa, is where our family would gather. And I think it's such I hope that I have the same thing when I'm 88, that my family loves to come with me and be with me and spend time with me.
Yeah, it's a talent that Alan has done. He's created a family unit that all like to be together. I find that probably is one of your great contributions.
Let's go to career a little
Yeah,
bit because we want to start with that. Alan, when did you first know that you wanted to go into finance as a career?
You know, I don't think I set out to go specifically into any particular career. Just like Lily didn't set out to go into politics. As a Greek and Latin classic scholar, I thought she'd do something different. I had no idea she'd end up in the political world, and maybe she's not going to end up there, but certainly at this stage. But my father was a stockbroker, so that probably had some influence. I always, growing up, followed the stock market, and being in New York, from New York, it just seemed like a logical place to go. When I started my career, I went to Ohio State. There weren't a lot of headhunters in Ohio State. For anybody. I mean, I did actually consider or had an offer from Caterpillar Tractor, which would have put me into, I think, Moline, Illinois, which, if you can imagine me in Moline, or the National Bank of Detroit. Those were the places who recruited. And I just came back to the city and just started pounding the pavement to get a job. And Wall Street was a great place. You could walk from one end of Wall Street to the other and find hundreds of firms. And that's exactly what I did, and got a job.
Right.
And Mr. Patricof, in the book, you kind of talk about the importance of keeping relationships. I kind of want to hear from you and from Lily about why that's essential, regardless of the field that you're in.
I think you bring up a very important point. I believe very strongly that life is cumulative, and I think starting when you're very young, even in high school, the friendships you develop, just as you and Lily are demonstrating, they stay with you. You each develop careers, go in different paths, and they add to the breadth of your life. And I have very strong feelings out for people who work for me. And there's a great tendency when everybody goes to an event who works in the same firm to huddle together with the same people that they work with every day. And I have been really tough on that when I see that happening, and I break up the groups and say, this is a chance to meet other people. If you're at a conference, sit with someone you don't know. If you're at a dinner party, find out about the person next to you or person across the table from you, and develop relationships. Because, as I say in the book, and I believe very strongly, these relationships are cumulative, as are your life experiences, and they grow with you, and that's what makes you who you are. I mean, without naming names or places, the people I met early in my career are today now the presidents, and many of them presidents and chairmen of many major firms on Wall Street and beyond that. But we all, got to know each other when we were just forming our careers. And it's why I also say, from the very early stages, which is again in my book, is get involved with art, get involved with theater, get involved with whatever it is that interests you. Lily had an interest in poetry. I made her a member of the Poet Society 10 years ago. I'm not sure she's followed it up as actively as she did then. But I think, developing these affiliated, associated activities really makes you the person you are. And at age 88, I have a pretty broad contact list of friends and acquaintances and relationships that make me who I am today.
Right.
Lily, two questions. One, have you gone and used your poetry society thing once? And then second, as we were talking, I was kind of thinking of when you and I have gone out before, even socially, and we definitely tend to be like with some of our friends, just all stand together. But I feel like you and I both kind of make the effort of let's do a lap, let's see who we can talk to, let's try to meet new people. So how do you think you kind of like live that, even not only in business, but also like with friends and in social situations?
Well, so in terms of the Poetry Society, I think you probably got that from me when I was maybe 11. And I definitely went with you at least once, but it probably has expired by now. But that was, I think, a great example of you showing and telling me and trying to convey to me that belief of yours at an early age, that it was important and worthwhile to pursue things outside of academics and just pure social life. And Kim, I think like you're so right. We do like, we love to be together, but I think you and I are people who love to try new things and do activities and meet new people. And something I've thought about a lot, and we've talked about a lot in recent years. Once you're out of school, and it's not just school and going out, you want to have a life that's enriched by lots of other things, and you figure out what those things are that bring you joy or that interest you. And I think we've always, Kim and I made a goal the summer after our senior year of high school, to see as many Broadway shows together as possible. And like, that's something we still love to do together. We've joined things, we've tried new things. And I think like we've made friends that way. Some of my best friends I've met through work. Like we've met great new friends through putting ourselves out there. And it's such a great thing, I think, especially when you're in your 20s and you don't have just class with people. You have to make an effort to meet new people, and finding common interests and things like that can just expand your world a lot.
Mm-hmm. Let me throw something in here. I feel very, very strongly about I'm very sad about the fact that today people are working on Zoom, working remotely, and maybe spending no days or one day or a few days in the office. I believe very strongly that camaraderie, that interaction from being in an office every day and being exposed to potential mentors on a personal interaction basis cannot be replaced. And I am very disappointed that both Lily and her sister are not right at the moment able to experience that as much as I would love to see that happening, because I think that's how you learn from people who've been through it before on a very close interaction basis.
Well, I was just going to say that I think, like, as someone who's now been able to work both remotely and in an office, I think it's definitely true. It's hard because there are so many benefits that are hard to take away from people once they've had from working remotely. But I was so fortunate to meet people who have become mentors of me from working in person, people who became friends, as I said, but also even working remotely. Like, it depends on the type of work, but it's not as easy. But if you make an effort, you can develop relationships. But I definitely hear what you're saying. And I think it's something that our society was still adapting to and figuring out how to move forward and what the workforce is going to look like.
I was going to say that, one of the reasons that Kim and I do this podcast is Kim was a producer, as Lily knows, for a TV program, a streaming service, a news network. And when the office closed during COVID, she was working at home, and she found it very miserable after a while.
I actually kind of disagree. I think that when I was in the office, it was so intense all the time. Yeah. You felt like you had to keep your head down, and I wasn't socializing as much. Whereas kind of now, if I have enough time to think about the connections that I do want to go after or ones that I do want to facilitate. Obviously, you have to kind of meet them on your own schedule and outside of an office. But I feel like I kind of make more of an effort now. But I think it depends on your field.
But I think you need the mentoring of an older person in an office to really start a career. It's very difficult to start.
I agree. Grandma and I agree. The problem is you don't know what you're missing. That's the problem. Yeah. You won't know it because you're not experiencing it. So
but
let's leave it there.
No, I agree with you though. I prefer the opportunity to. I mean, like, there's a reason that Kim, you stay in Palm Beach besides loving being there and being with your grandma. Like, when you guys record the podcast together, I'm sure that you get much more out of each other, and you are able to interact and bounce ideas off each other than being remote. So that's in a small scale, but it's
basically nice. Being with her is my office.
Yeah.
Well,
when I'm alone, my remote is when I'm in New York City and she's here, and I get less work done than when we're in person together. So I guess
hounds me. So 24/7, I don't know where the camera's going or what she's going to say, but that's a particular kind of work. And I think it's changing back. Don't you think, Alan, that it's going back, that people are demanding people to come back to the office?
Well, I just saw Disney announced, I think Monday this week, that they're going to require 4 days a week. I just had this conversation with Graycroft, the firm that I'm chairman emeritus of, just yesterday, in saying that you got to bite the bullet, and you can't have. I was in the Graycroft office yesterday, and yesterday was an unusual day. There were probably 6 people there, whereas 2 years ago, there would have been 15 or 20. And that interaction, that ability to go to lunch with the guy next door, to learn from the senior person in the firm. You say you worked at Cheddar. I'm not sure that the ability for you to work next door to John Steinberg and find out, how he got where he was, and give you some tips. You're just not going to have that opportunity.
Invaluable.
So let's leave it alone. But that's my personal belief. But the thing that's unfortunate, Kim, is that we've moved so far, and you said it, and Lily said it, you're in a way gotten spoiled, that your leisure time, your ability to, go out and do yoga for an hour during the day, the ability to go play pickleball, the ability to do constructive things, has just changed the momentum and interactions. And, let's just leave it there.
Yeah.
I'm not sure for the better, but okay.
Lily, what traits do you think that you've inherited from your grandpa? And then what do you think you disagree on the most?
We disagree all the time. So let's start there.
We do disagree, but usually in a constructive way. I'd say, I think I am very stubborn, maybe, or tenacious, maybe is the right word. And I think that is something that he is as well. I am very intellectually curious, which is absolutely true of him, and is not necessarily, I think that's a trait that's not just inherited, but learned. So I'm lucky to have been exposed to that, but from him and the rest of my family. I think I'm passionate and I care about things going on. And that's another thing that I believe I developed, but also probably had, was inclined to be in the first place. We are both, I also walk very fast. I talk very fast, which is one of the sources of our disagreements most frequently. He thinks I talk too quickly, but Kim can understand me. I think.
Lily has a specific language. When I introduce her to new people, they look at me sometimes and they're like, "What?" And I'm like, "No. Like, I'm on level 5 of this course, so I'm good." But you have to.
Thank you, Kim. That is the constant friction that Lily's bringing it up. I don't stop trying to slow her down, and if whatever she wants to share with you, I've gone to great extremes to do this.
He offered me a car when I was in middle school to go to a speech therapist. I did go to the speech therapist. Never.
Where's the car?
Where?
Question.
She went to the speech therapist once.
The speech therapist understood her, so there was no need to go back.
Right. You do the same thing to me, Grandma. I feel like sometimes you're like, slow down when I'm in the middle of talking. And I don't even think that I talk that fast. So maybe grandparents are definitely like very aware of, they want their grandkids to be perfect sometimes.
Well, we're trying to make you better than we are.
I guess so. Mr. Patricof, do you have we kind of touched on this, but specific activities that even you can give advice to other grandparents listening of things that they could kind of do with their grandkids, or maybe it's watching a lot of the same shows or something like that?
No, I just think keeping yourself relevant is really the answer. If you want to play in the same game as you and Lily, you've got to be, I took Lily, and I've taken others in the family to a place called Marie's Crisis down in New York, which is, she's probably taken you there, Kim.
Yeah, she has. It's our favorite place to go.
Yeah, and I, if I'm reading a book, if I'm watching a show, we just had a big debate. I hated Glass Onion, hated it with an extreme passion.
Why?
I think it's ridiculous.
I didn't date him, by the way. I haven't seen it. I don't want to.
I saw it.
Knives Out, the first one I loved, but this was just crazy.
Knives Out.
Which was amazing. Reading the paper, knowing what's happening, being up to date on politics, being, it's, I went to an art gallery yesterday, and I will be quick to say to Lily. In fact, she and I had I'll tell the story, Lily, but you can. I had lunch with Lily about a month ago, and I said, I want you to, we were at 59th Street. I said, I want you to go over to see the LVMH
Right.
trunk show. And she said, I'll do it. I said, do it now while I've been thinking about it. Don't tell me you're going to do it later. She said, I promise you I'm going to do it. And I asked her a week later, had she done it? No. And 2 weeks later, she now tells me she's done it. I still don't
She
believe
went with me, so I can attest.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. But I believe very, very strongly in do it now. I hate people who say, I'll get to it tomorrow, or I'm glad you told me. You know,
I've been trying to get back to an office at that time though. So
Yeah.
and I exactly, Kim is the win. We did it together. So I ended up we had a really fun afternoon.
Yeah.
anyhow, I
Wasn't much though, I have to say.
I think staying relevant, being part of life is critical, whether it's, running or surfing or whatever else it may be, or intellectual pursuits. I think that the only way you're going to, my grandparents, my grandparents were in another century. At not even point, I had no relationship with them other than to, visit them for a Jewish holiday experience. But even my parents, I did very little with. They just weren't, active participants. I have been active with my children and my grandchildren, and I hope, and I think they're very happy to have me go to anything with them and do anything with them, because
See, I think that's generational, because I feel the same way. I mean, I think our parents and our grandparents were much more standoffish. And from our perspective, and I'm in the same generation as Alan is, we wanted families to stay together and understand and be together. And it was looking forward to spending more than just holidays together. We really like to spend every vacations and weekends together as family units.
Yeah,
And you had to do that by being relevant. That's what he's saying. You had to see what was going on with your generation, see what problems are really individual of today, which there are loads of problems. I think the dating today is certainly a different type of conversation than we would have had in the 50s and 60s and even the early 70s. So we have to understand, and which is my issue with Kim, where your perspective is on dating, on relationships, on friendships.
You can't. I know you're desperate to get into this dating.
Wait, I want to follow up on what you said though about being relevant. I think as someone who on the receiving end of the building of a grandparent-grandchild relationship, what I would say was the most important thing always is making yourself available. So whatever your restrictions are, some people don't live in the same state or country as their grandkids. Some people might not have the same physical capabilities. I think offering to spend time with your grandkids, calling them, texting them. Right. My whole life, my grandpa and grandma wanted to have me come and sleep over, wanted to do things with me. And for us, I was going to the ballet, going to shows, going to art galleries, but also going on trips together. But even now, if we're in the Hamptons and on the weekend, my grandpa will say, will you come on a bike ride with me? Will you go on a hike with me? Do you want to go to the beach this afternoon? And even when you're younger, maybe some grandkids won't always appreciate that. But I think knowing that your grandparent wants to spend time with you in whatever way that looks like you can find interests in common and things to do, and just having that, just trying to spend time and putting yourself out there to be with your grandkid, I think makes you someone that they become close to.
100%. It's such a two-way street. So I totally agree with that.
And everybody always asks the same question. How did you get such a close relationship? It's not easy. You really work at it. I mean, you might enjoy, you have to work at it.
100%. I've worked from day one with my children and my grandchildren, and I would say I couldn't have a much better relationship than with my grandchildren than I have today. I mean, they are very comfortable in calling or doing things or going places with me. It's which I never would have had with my grandparents.
Right.
Never.
Exactly.
I mean, you talk about dating.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about dating. I know the two of you are close and that you've had those discussions kind of before. Mr. Patricof, have you set Lily up on a date before? I think at least once, right?
At least once. But like all younger people, they don't trust their.
I went out with him.
Please, yes.
Give him a second
saying,
chance.
The other guy, I don't want to shame anyone physically, but the second guy he tried to set me up with was around twice my age,
Oh,
less hair than anyone who's like a date that I've ever seen. And I don't understand your thinking there. But the first guy he set me up with, I got at least what he was going for. And I went out with him. It wasn't, I mean, I don't know exactly what you saw that would make us a match, but I appreciate he was like a young man with an interesting job and background who you thought you like his family, and I went out with him, so I did trust you on that. And then I trusted myself when I did not like him and didn't go on a second date.
see, but this is our conversation. You got to give somebody more than one date.
Well, you also think that looks don't matter at all.
I don't.
And I don't know how you feel about this, Alan, but like I certainly want to be attracted to the person.
Oh,
Absolutely, I agree with you. I'm sorry. I think you want to physically be attracted and intellectually attractive, and
well, that's
and you know, someone who's compatible with your interests. But but let me make one thing very clear. Notwithstanding what Lily just said, as a widower, there are many people who have called me up to meet somebody, and I always say to them the same thing. Do you remember my wife? I had an extraordinarily attractive, nice wife. I think Lily will tell you, not the average. She was extraordinary. I mean, many people would tell you she was one of the most attractive people in New York and the nicest. And I would say that. And most people who try to fix you up with someone who's their best friend or someone they heard just got divorced or became a widow, and they don't really think, does this really make sense? Is this really right for this person? And I could go stories that, once I, took the benefit of someone who pressed me, and it was ridiculous. I mean, it made no sense whatsoever because they just didn't understand me and my personality and who I am and who I had been married to for 50 years. So when Lily makes her comments, I would never fix Lily up with someone that I didn't apply those same standards. And the fact that she made these comments she just made, I assure you, I did not pick a guy that was twice her age and bald. I was guaranteed.
You have a higher standard for attractiveness for women than for men. I think if you know a man, and maybe not, I'm not saying that's necessarily like a standard thing, but I think if you know a guy and you know that he is nice, you met him, that too, you see that as being a worthwhile person. But as someone, when you're looking at someone and making a judgment for yourself, the standards might be a little bit different. He was bald and he was like
all right,
Lily,
he might be listening to the podcast, so let's not go further into this.
We're going to have that debate, but I will again say it, I would not suggest anyone to any of my grandchildren that I didn't think was interesting, attractive, and relevant to Lily or whichever of my grandchildren that I fit male related, since I have 6 granddaughters and only 1 grandson.
I want to make a point of mentioning, though, we don't know whoever they end up dating. I think remember, some of them are like 12, so who knows who they want.
All right,
I'll give up on the point.
But my point is, I do not, people should not do it indiscriminately just to help their best friend or someone they met, or they really should think more about, is this make sense?
That's the point I make pretty much every episode that Grandma Gail never gets, which is I don't like setups for that reason, because it's always, oh, I know someone who's single, you're single, go out. It's never tailored to you. So I always think I can pick a better partner for myself than somebody else, unless it's my best friend who knows me well and actually thinks that this is like going to be a good person for me.
Well,
you know
that's
what?
true.
I'm going to interject something here. It's different for Alan and different for Lily and you. We're coming from a marriage that was good, and we have certain ideas in our mind what a perfect person should be on a date. You guys are starting out just your lives, and you have to give people a chance, and looks are one part of it. But I hope the two of you girls, who are very smart and very attractive, don't just look at looks, because looks fade. And hair grows away and people get heavy, but you have to like the person. The person has to have be a good soul and a good person.
We know that, I think.
No, but I think sometimes you guys look at too much superficial. And I
Well,
don't go along with that.
I think
That's my
fair.
big problem.
Especially with dating apps, I think that's like kind of the forced format. You're
Right.
judging based off a very superficial, like first look. But I know that people I've liked in the past, I know the same for Kim. It's more dependent on personality,
Good.
Intellectual, like curiosity. I feel like when you end up being attracted to someone for a long term, it's like good looks are very, very nice. But if someone were amazing, like objectively handsome and not intelligent or not kind, I would not find them attractive, or if someone weren't like a perfect 10. And
But Lily, I want to make something clear to you and to Kim. If I were to suggest someone to you or to Kim, I would not do it indiscriminately. I would think, does this make sense for this particular person? No, I'm just saying to you. It would not just be because I met somebody and I want to introduce my granddaughter. I don't need to waste your time or their time. And I think that applies whether it's Kim's grandmother or it's me. It should be the same kind of thought process.
All right.
I'm wondering if either of you think anything is not okay to talk about on a date. Like, I know you're both deeply involved in politics. Would you ever discuss it on a first or second date?
Well, I think I have had this discussion with other people. I think it's fair to say that I would not be very comfortable dealing with someone who was an avid Trump supporter. I have to be honest. It would just not work. And I have that struggle today with friends, widow friends who husbands, as couples, we were very, very friendly. But now that the husband is not there and I'm dealing with a woman, not dealing with her, I mean, this is not a personal relationship, but friends. It makes it's very, very hard because, if you visit with them, you're sitting in front of the Fox screen the whole time, and countering arguments all the time. So I think that would an avid Trump supporter would be very difficult for me to spend any time with. Really, it's a tough thing, particularly when you have a friendship that transcends that.
I'm going to say this because I've been in a situation where I am from an opposite point of view. I think as friends, we have to be able to talk about the different political things. Forget Trump, forget Biden, forget all that. We have to have a meeting of the minds. We can't break up a country into such polarization as we have now. Unfortunately, I remember things like this happening when I was young, and they were, it was anti-Nixon, it was anti-Kennedy, it was but never the hatred and the vitriolic speech that we have today, which I don't think is good. See, I think it's bad.
I think I happen to agree. I think you're right. I will say that you're offering a more balanced viewpoint.
Right, that's what I would hope.
I try.
Okay.
But
we have to all try.
But I think we do need more harmony. And I will say to you, which I'm sure you will confirm, when I was dating, politics was you never even would dream of talking about politics.
It's become so much a part of our lives.
Well, it's even on the dating profiles, it says your affiliation.
I think that's sad because you never get to, then you'll only stay with one type of person. And just what you were saying before, you want to have a varied amount of opinions and conversations and respect them. I mean, I can respect Alan's point of view and he has to come and respect my point of view, and then you do whatever you want. And that's where I'm hoping we go. I don't like what's happening really now. I don't think it's healthy.
I have lots of Republican friends. I mean, that's not.
Exactly.
Geocratic, you do spend, I think that is something you try to do. I think you're like, in terms of dating, it would be hard for you, but you do have friends and people you care about.
That's
and I had a political event at the house this summer, and I invited a friend of his who I knew to be a Republican, even though it was about a Democratic candidate and Democratic issues. And it actually led to an interesting question and an interesting discussion about exactly what we're saying here. Like, the polarity is very difficult to deal with, and everyone, I think no one wants that, but politics and morality have become so deeply intertwined in a way that I don't think they always were. And so part of the like national conversation, like we shouldn't, 20 years ago, it shouldn't have been like on the nightly news what the president was doing, or like it, it would just be like he was governing, unless it was like a big world event. And now it's just so much for
ugly
for me as well. I have gone on dates with people with different political views. I have friends with different political views, but to have like a partner who had views that were incompatible to mine, and in terms of things that connect to morals and rights and things that are just, to me, like everyone can have deal breakers and they can be silly or serious. And I think for me, it would just be hard to see like building a life or being able to deal with, like, talk through issues when I know.
No, I think what Lily's saying, I mean, if I were dating someone who was against abortion rights, who was a pro-gun, who carried a gun, and you can, I mean, those kind of issues, there would be no point. The rest of it would just, I mean, there was no place to go.
Yeah,
right. I agree.
I wanted to talk a little bit also about physical health, because you mentioned earlier the living to 114 goal.
I'm rooting for him.
Yeah, we all
do it too.
I know, for everyone, for all four of us. How does physical health play in? Like, do you have a fitness routine that you do every day? I know. Oh, I also wanted to ask about your running the marathon, because I want to know how the I Am 88 shirt came to be.
That's a very good story, actually. But my routine is one thing. I walk every place. I live on 76th Street. I walk where I am now on 55th Street. My second office is 40th Street. So I will walk down there later. Then I'll walk back. Anytime I have any opportunity, a doctor's meeting or anything, rather than taking a cab, I'll walk. In preparation for doing this marathon, I did do training for 6 or 7 months or more out in the park every morning at 6 o'clock in the morning with a trainer. I've had a actual exercise trainer for the same person for 25 years.
You write about him in the book, which was very wonderful.
He's came to my house hold the book up.
I wanted to hold the book up for people to see. It's a very pretty cover. I like it a lot.
But the story of the marathon is actually a funny story. My son from California, Jamie, who's 47, came to East. He's a producer in Hollywood, but he came to give me moral support, and also, not safety, but just, 26 miles is a long way to go. He just wanted to go do it with me, even though he had not really done any training. And
I offered, by the way, but there were no bib spots left.
When you do it, you do it in corrals. There were 50,000 people there in corrals at 10,000 each. And when you start, I was in one of the corrals, and the runners, zoom off. There are 20 to 30 or 40 people who were doing what I was doing, which is I didn't run the marathon. I walked and jogged it, mostly walking.
It's like a 19-minute mile, so very brisk walking.
Well, no, I was at a 17-20 mile until I had my problem. I should have done it in a 17-20 mile. Unfortunately, I had the problem at the 20th mile. But as we're walking fast, there was a woman alongside us who was also jogging, and she had written across her chest her name in big letters. And as we were going down 4th Avenue in Brooklyn, after we crossed the bridge, everybody was cheering for this person. Let's say her name was Carol. Go, Carol. Go, Carol. You can do it. Great. And they were literally cheering. And I turned to my son, and as we're going, and I said, Jamie, what's wrong with us? Whether we chicken soup, nobody is saying one single enthusiastic comment. And my last name was on my shirt. And I said, sidle over to her as we're walking. And, and by the way, she was walking like she was 100 years old. She was totally bent over, shuffling along. So he goes over as we're moving forward. and then comes back to me and says she's 62. I said, 62? And they're cheering for her?
Yeah.
And no one is cheering for me?
Well, she has a
And
lot
this
of
is what
relatives.
I said, no, this, she looked
She
like she
looked
was
older
100.
than she was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She looked a lot older than I did.
Mhm.
So I said, let's call Christina, who was one of my daughter-in-law's sisters, who was going to meet us at mile 5, and tell her to bring a Sharpie
Yeah.
to the race. So she came at mile 5 with this Sharpie, and I stopped and I wrote across my chest, which you can see in any pictures,
Mhm.
I am 88. And after that,
They were cheering.
Carol, or whatever her name was, which I do know, no one even, they didn't even mention her. And we had cheers like you can't imagine
Mhm.
from that point on, for the 5th mile to the 26th in darkness. Everybody cheered us on, and the newspapers covered it. And
Well, I heard it
but
on Squawk Box. Everybody congratulated you the next day. I was watching early in the morning and they were all talking about it. So for sure, you made us all proud.
I'm very proud of having written that across, because if I hadn't written it, I think we would have been in oblivion.
Yeah. Lily, what was that like going and seeing everyone cheering?
I mean, it was amazing. I walked with my dad up to meet my grandpa and my uncle right after. So he had a problem with, I think, his hamstring or his calf based on an injury a while back, and had to sit for a bit. So we walked up to meet him at like 125th Street, and I was so proud. I mean, people were still. It was like, it was getting dark, but he had a physical injury, but decided that he wanted to keep doing it, and we were all a little bit nervous because we had said, if you're doing this, you have to put your health first, and you knew that. It's not like we had to tell you that. Like, if you were feeling bad, you were going to stop, but you were absolutely sticking with it. We ran up and then walked with them for a while, and you were already on mile 21. We had just walked a bit to get to you, and the amount that we walked, I was exhausted, just like and what a long day that is too. It's just incredible, and seeing people at the finish line just going crazy, and there's like the announcement. I mean, the New York Marathon is like fantastic, and he did not stop. He was smiling and talking and like going at it. You weren't like Carol, even at and until we were done, and then we got out the big like leg massagers and Chinese food and things like that. But I was extremely proud and impressed, because I think that is such an accomplishment and achievement no matter what age you are. So I think that it was just amazing.
I was the oldest finisher this year.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Amazing.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So at this stage in their life, in your 80s, a lot of people are retired. I have a feeling you're not retiring.
He's never retiring.
Your most recent.
I started my 3rd business
Yeah.
2 years ago, so it's too early to retire. I just started a new firm.
Right.
Exactly. I wanted to ask about Primetime Partners. I didn't know that aging is like $1 trillion sector. What type of companies are you like looking into for this new venture?
Yeah, well, I got into this because I knew a woman. We both served on the board of a company called Thrive Global, which is Ariana Huffington's company. So we got to know each other. And actually, through one of my other sons, one of Lily's uncles, who one day said to me, Abby Levy, whose her name is, who he had gone to business school with, is also interested in the same area of the aging society and the dynamic growth aspects, but she's about to do something, and all you're doing is talking about it. And he put together a breakfast, and about 2 or 3 weeks later, we decided to start a firm together, Primetime Partners, which I gave the name to, because I think it's a perfect name, because we're in our prime time. And it's focused on investing in anything that deals with we did say over 60. I'd say today probably the postmenopausal generation, over 50, whether it's products, services, caregiving, support, preventing loneliness, recreation, anything that will serve older people, which is the fastest growing part of society. by 2030, there'll be more people over 60 than there will be under 18.
Wow.
And yet everybody is focused for investing in the millennials in bike delivery companies and dog walking companies. And we try, and we have succeeded to a great deal, becoming thought leaders, and whether it's at conferences or on television. We get a lot of media exposure to talk about this part of the society that needs more attention, and for investment and commercial reasons, as well as social impact.
Right.
Totally agree. I mean, that's kind of what we're trying to do here as well on a really, really lower scale. But yeah, to give light to a lot of the things that your experiences and what you're going through, and kind of bridging the generation gap a little bit. So I want to end the episode with a game that we play with all of our guests. It's called Grandma Gail's Old Fashioned Dating Quiz. And then you'll both give your answers, and we'll deem whether you're more of a traditional dater or more of a modern dater.
I reserve the right to say no comment.
Exactly.
Good. You. But his number one piece of advice for me constantly, which is why I do worry about is always make sure you say thank you after a date. I always say thank you. I will always say thank you. You don't
No,
need
that's not exactly what I said. No, I tell you what I've learned. No, what I've said, I've learned. I am giving a tip.
Yes.
What I have learned from dating in the last, and I actually, to be very honest, I started dating before my wife passed away, because she really couldn't speak because of Alzheimer's for the last 2 or 3 years that she was alive, although I was very, very, very actively involved and committed and constant companion. But I did start somewhat of a social life early. So I've been kind of dating, you'd say, for maybe 4 years. So I do have enough experience. But what I have learned above anything else is almost every single woman I have gone out with, unless I guess it's every single woman. So I haven't had too many failures. Always text either before, after the evening is over, that evening, or by 8 o'clock the next morning. I get a text. I have not initiated the text.
Well, you always get it.
Well, okay, no, that's different though.
And I have come to recognize that is certainly it's encouraging to say, from someone saying, I had a great time, or looking forward to the next time, or thanks for a great evening, or dinner was terrific, or something that
makes you feel good.
In a way,
is so interesting,
because it's suggestive about saying, call me again.
Right, exactly.
So
it doesn't say call me again. It doesn't say call me again, though.
Yeah.
But it leaves you on a good note.
But that actually is the exact opposite that I've experienced as a 26-year-old dating. I always feel like I'm not going to text thank you or anything. I said thank you in person. And then the guy texts me if they want to see me again.
Right.
So I've never texted one single person.
Wow.
And I'll tell you something else. I have a very, very good friend who's married, but we've been friends since he was single. I was married, and he's ridiculous. He said, I follow the 6-hour texting rule. I said, what is that? He said, I don't respond to a text for at least 6 hours. I said, that's the most unnatural behavior. You respond if you're in the mood to respond. There shouldn't be.
Married and then single again.
What?
He married and then he became single again when you knew him, because I think something must happen where if you've been married since before technology, then you get technology and you're single, you almost have go to the beginning of dating evolution, like with us when we were in high school, where you're kind of playing games like that, like not texting for 6 hours. To us now it's like silly.
By the way, I should also add, under no circumstances, absolutely zero, do I ever use email for that, or does anyone email me on that? Email is not for that those kind of comments.
Thank heavens.
No, but it's good advice, because Lily, we know that like we wouldn't even have someone's email, so it wouldn't be. But a lot of people, maybe when like they're dating in their older age or whatever it is, like
they only have their email.
Yeah, they wouldn't think about it. So it's actually good advice.
All right.
Okay. I'm going to do
I'm going to have other things to do today.
Quick round of our game. Would you rather receive a call or a text message from someone you're dating, if it's just to say hi?
How many dates?
First or second date?
personally, probably a text, because a call would make me nervous. Like, oh, is there something serious they're calling about? But if then I pick up and it's a call and they're just saying hi, it's okay.
Right.
I'm going to give you a more inclusive answer. When I was growing up, and when your grandmother was growing up, it was 100% phone. There wasn't.
There was no text.
Yeah, but it would have been very unusual to call up someone and say, "I had a great time," or "Thank you for something," a male or female. It just didn't happen.
Not in the same conversation of like right after dates anymore. Just like if you have gone on a few dates with someone and they're calling or texting you to say hi.
Yeah. So I'm saying that would not. There was. You would only have called to say
if you want to have a date.
Exactly. Are you free Saturday night?
Yeah.
Nothing else. But today, I would say almost exclusively and almost all interaction is text.
Yeah.
Nice. I avoid phoning.
So he's very modern.
Wait, he might be. This might be interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Dating apps or setups, Lily?
Oh, neither. I have an enormous. My problem is having too many.
Right.
As Lily would know, I'm triple booked every night of the week virtually. Not dated, not triple booked.
This
I
is
have
so sad.
I know. Why can't I get a date?
But
one of our arguments is, what are you doing tonight? Just sitting at home having a quiet night. Why aren't you going out? I'm going out.
No,
Right.
let me elucidate on that. One of the things that disappointed me for quite a while, and I think maybe I've told you this, Lily, is I'm being very honest with you now, since this is a sincere conversation. I've been disappointed that my family, sons and grandchildren, don't call me and say at Christmas or at Thanksgiving or whatever, Grandpa, what have you got for Thanksgiving? They never. In fact, not this year, but last year.
I'm sorry,
Lily, let me finish. Lily,
talked for like half an hour.
Lily, can I finish?
Times.
Lily, I want to finish my.
Okay.
Lily, let me finish my conversation. Not this year, but last year, I accepted a Thanksgiving lunch invitation from a friend because I said no one in my family has called. Lily, please, has called to ask me what am I doing for Thanksgiving, and and it really in the beginning used to bother me, and then what I've come to realize over the years is the truth of the fact is I am so busy, I am doing so much that they all assume. Not one of my children, for example, at Christmas said, "You want to come along with us for Christmas?" Not one, including your parents and your two uncles. They didn't even occur to them to say, Lily, can I please just finish? All right. They assume that I have plans and they know that I have a very active life. So it doesn't bother me anymore, but they're getting away. They're off the hook because I think it is very important that they do do that. In my case, I happen to have an unusual situation.
Well, you better keep asking
I'll
me,
answer
Kim.
the prompt. Yeah, I'll answer the prompt. But I will say, you make us sound. You had a routine every year where you'd go to your daughter-in-law's mother's house for Thanksgiving, and that was your routine. That's why you were always. We won't get into this.
So maybe the moral of the story is always ask. Because
that's right. That's it.
Correct.
Thank you.
That's
Kim.
the moral of the
exactly
story.
The point. Kim, every holiday, call me up and say
you are invited to our Thanksgiving.
Right. And if you can survive our family, you can survive anybody.
This is true.
I have met a lot of widows, and I feel very strongly, and I have advised every widow that I know, not that I'm dating, particularly ones that I'm not dating, and say, do not be shy. And don't sit around and wait because your husband passed away, or and wait a year or two of mourning. If you're an older person, there is a limit. Even though I'm going to live to 114, every moment is precious.
You might not want to be dancing then.
There's nothing wrong with going online. It's very, very effective. And I'm tired of hearing people saying there are terrible people online. I won't like. It's the best way. I wish it never existed when I was in the dating world. And I'm fortunate that I don't have to do it now. But let me tell you, if my life slowed down, I'd figure a way to go online too. But
Yeah.
I have a particular problem that I just have too much public visibility, and I just something
Too many
I just
people
never
waiting
considered.
online for you.
Yeah,
Lily, you have to get him on
no.
Raya. You know, Mr.
No,
Patricof, Raya is the one that.
Are you kidding? My brother-in-law lives on Raya.
Oh, really?
And he taunts me. When we go out for dinner, he likes to show me all the women he's going out on Raya. No, Raya is not for me.
That's
but not,
fair. Okay, would you move in together before getting engaged, or wait until you're like married to live together?
Lily first.
I would move in with someone before getting engaged. I think knowing how compatible, I think that's an important thing to do, to know whether you enjoy spending having your home be together.
Yeah, I agree with Lily. I mean,
We're
whatever
all
happens,
agreeing with this now.
whatever would happen.
We've come a long way, baby.
Yeah, when I got married, my first wife, that was absolutely
Taboo.
not acceptable.
Yeah.
Exactly, correct.
Okay, last question is, who should pay for the date? Should it be one person in a relationship, or should you split the bill?
No, I pay for everything. Although I will tell you that I pay for everything, but sometimes, I mean, not intentionally, if I have a plan with someone and they happen to buy the movie tickets, buy the I will insist on, and they won't accept it. But it's because we've gone out enough times that they feel like, I'm not trying to save money, and it's just if we're really on some kind of more than just first date or something, it doesn't happen on a first date, I would say, for sure. But if it naturally fits, it's nothing terrible. I wrote this book, and the title of No Red Lights was everything we've been talking about. I live a life with no red lights. I try everything, and the book is about that, and telling people that they should try everything. And it really is focused on two audiences. That's why I accepted this podcast. It's a bifurcated objective. One is for young people of your age and Lily's age to say, taste life, do things that pass you by, that pass in front of you, and don't let them pass. I'm not making a big deal out of it, but like the LVMH, going to see it, instead of saying, I'll do it next week or next month, because invariably most people don't end up following and doing those things. So, if you have curiosity and you hear about something, you hear about a play, or you hear about a lecture, or you hear about an article, seize the moment, try everything. And then, so the book is all about the many things I've done in life, earlier and today, that make life interesting and make you a bigger person in your life. And the second audience is really for your grandmother and people my age. She's not my age, she's a lot younger, but is saying at age 60, life is not over. If you'll buy my argument, you're going to live to 114. At 60, you're just past the halfway mark. And what are you going to do with the rest of your life? So think about going back into the same business and doing it over again. You know much more than you did then. You have a bigger Rolodex. You have more experience. You have still lots of energy. So do that, or try something, become a poet, or go back to law school, or do something, but make the second half of your life more interesting. So I really wrote for a bifurcated audience, and I would, I don't mean to promote myself, but it has accomplished that I get comments from people on both ends. I got the best comment, and I'll end with this, the other day, from a fellow who lives in my building, married, who's lived there as long as I have, and he's on the New York Stock Exchange. And I bumped into him in the lobby the other day, and he said, I loved your book, Alan. I just sent it to 20 people. He said, the only thing I have to complain about is, and by the way, he's 80. He said, I'm sorry I didn't read it 20 years ago.
Right.
And I said, he got it. I mean, the fact is, what he's saying is, I've spent the last 20 years sitting and watching a ticker tape.
Television.
Instead of television. That's right, not the ticker tape. And there are so many interesting things that you have the opportunity, and not just some pass you by, but the others you have to go out and find. So that's my
Very
plug.
inspirational. And I
And I
totally
loved it.
like for both of us.
I
for
loved the book.
sure.
I
Again,
thought it was actually all the things that I really always thought about a successful person you wrote about in this book. And it's a success on many levels, not just on a business level. So it's just to make a person more interesting and more wonderful, and a family person. And your family's going to call you now for Thanksgiving. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Gail, both of you and Kim, I have not done any book tours, but I happen to be. This is not to promote it there, but just to
Right.
tell the two of you, and Lily can take care of it. I am actually going on the 3rd of February, and I'm going to something called the Kuder Institute, and I'm speaking about the book on Friday the 3rd, and then I'm going to Del Rey on that Monday.
And Mr. Patricof, just remind people where they can get the book.
Amazon.
Well, I wish I could say go to your local bookstore, but
Right.
unfortunately, Amazon or Barnes and Noble or Walmart, it's online.
Amazing.
Great.
Thank you both.
Listen, and then, by the way, it's on Audible also.
Oh yeah, I heard about your experience from Lily doing the audiobook. That sounds like really interesting as well.
Yeah, I recorded it myself.
Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yes. So you guys know how to follow us. Excuse My Grandma on Instagram, TikTok. Rate us 5 stars wherever you're listening. See you next week.
Okay, bye.